this special meeting of the Village of Riverside Planning and Zoning Commission for Friday, September 15th, 2023. Ashley, could you call the roll?
Chairperson Hannigan.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Matthews.
Here.
Commissioner Lang.
Here.
Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Commissioner Marshall.
Here.
And Commissioner Pelletier is absent.
Thank you. We have a quorum, and for the record, the village attorney, Robert Pickerel, is joining us via telephone this evening. First item on our agenda, any visitors, petitions, citizen requests, and communications. Is there anyone present who would like to speak during this time about an item that is not on the agenda? Seeing no one, we'll move on to new business. We have one item of new business this evening, PZ 23-0006, variations to parking lot requirements, 2710 South Harlem Avenue. This item starts on page 2 in the electronic packet for anyone following along. Ashley, would you like to begin the presentation?
Yes. So this item before you has already been before the Planning and Zoning Commission in a different circumstance. In 2022, early 2022, the Board of Trustees approved a variation to allow the landscape buffer between Harlem Avenue and the parking lot at 2710 South Harlem. That variation was specifically for 8 feet, 10 inches wide. And when the plans were received for engineering and ready to start construction, it was identified that the measurements were different than the construction would allow. They're actually 1 foot larger than originally assumed. So the lot is slightly bigger, or slightly smaller, excuse me, than originally assumed that the variation applied to. So when we received the building plans, they are in front of you, and they should be on that page 3 of the site plans. What you'll see is toward the right portion of the parking lot plan to orient you. Harlem Avenue is on the far right. That larger buffer there is shown at 7.92 feet when the variation requested and granted a year ago was for 8 feet, 10 inches. And so the request is to modify the variation slightly, and generally it's a big enough difference in size that we felt, out of an abundance of caution, that we needed to take it through this process again and review the standards to ensure that there's not any new impediments to this project based on this change. So if you have questions, we have the petitioner, Dr. Milad Noramadi is here, and I can also open the floor to Attorney Pickerel if there's anything else to add to the presentation.
Would the petitioner like to speak? Can you please raise your right hand to be sworn in? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for the review. Essentially, we're just shrinking down the buffer space by about 1 foot, so not a huge variation. Another request would be, previously, they had requested that there would only be one way in and out of that parking lot, which was through Harlem Avenue, and that the end of the parking lot be fenced off to the alley. I also wanted to put to the committee if we can remove the fence and allow for traffic to go through to the alley, so that potential customers could exit through the alley if they chose to.
I can address so it sounds like it's a site plan change, in which case we would need to bring something like that for a fence that was previously approved through the site plan back to this group. I believe you'd be able to speak about it, but make no final determinations. Give Dr. Normati some indication of whether that makes sense or not. The village board has, since 2022, made changes to the traffic pattern in that area. So initially, when Dr. Normati was planning to do this parking lot and exiting through the alley, the concern was that there would be a lot of cut-through traffic into the neighborhood that is served there. Since that time, they've made changes with additional stop signs and signage that have indicated a right turn only out of there. So anybody who's coming out of those locations would really need to circulate. They'd end up back on Harlem Avenue. So they wouldn't be going the reverse and going through the neighborhood. So while we can't make any kind of final determination about removal of either the length of the fence or a portion of the fence, we would need to set that aside for a different day, but you're welcome to discuss that and, of course, ask any questions about the current plans.
Where would the right turn only sign be?
Well, we would have to discuss it just a little bit more if we were to bring it back for site plan, but Dr. Normati, would you be open to either all removal of the fence, a partial removal of the fence? Just give us a sense of what you would think about.
Yeah, essentially, I was thinking like complete removal of the fence so that it wouldn't inhibit parking in any way over there, and then
Okay.
also make it easier for people to exit through into the alley.
Okay. Commissioner Miller, we would have to determine some type of way to appropriately direct traffic.
And this would just be signage.
It would essentially be signage. However, if there was any other way to manage traffic in that way, we'd have to look at it.
And currently, what's marked here on the map or the diagram as exit only is an exit and an entrance? Or no, the entrance is from the other property? From 2720?
There's one turn in, so it looks like then there would be essentially two exits out of the lot, if that were to be the case. There's one entrance that is before you hit Long Common, and that's the prior approved site plan. So really, there would be essentially two exits, so anybody going to the far end of the parking lot would have perhaps a closer exit that way or the other way onto Harlem.
The way it is now, planned to be, there's one entrance off
Correct.
of Harlem
Correct.
onto 2720, and then the exit for both properties is on 2710.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I'm not familiar enough with the site plan or the alley or any of this to really contribute anything useful to this discussion. And I'm not sure, I'm sure other people might be, but would it be possible to focus on the main item of the agenda, at least to get that out of the way? And then if we want to bat the other idea around, we could.
I think that's an excellent idea.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, I'd like to agree with Commissioner Matthews, only because I know that this is a sensitive area as well with the neighbors. So I think separating these two discussions would
Yeah.
be a better idea. But a quick question, with the area that becomes 7.92 feet, that's on your property, 2710, and then there's another foot of grassy area to the sidewalk, correct? That's actually state right-of-way or not yours?
Right, until you get to Harlem, you mean? Yep.
Yes, so
Correct.
that means, although you're only providing a, call it an 8-foot buffer, in reality, it ends up being a 9-foot buffer because that is it'll just become part of the whole buffer area.
Right, it would tie in. Yep.
clarify, it is 7.92, not 7 and 11, 7, because on the variation application, I believe it's 7 feet 11 inches, but
0.92 feet is 11.
11 inches, oh, there you go.
Technicalities. Tomato, tomato.
This is why I'm not an engineer.
2 feet.
Thank you, Commissioner Matthews.
Therefore, the change being requested is less than 1 foot difference.
Correct.
From what was approved before.
Any other questions or comments about this?
No, actually, if we're good, I can make a motion.
Yes, I will.
Seeing that the change is fairly minimal and the area in question will, in the end, still result in a 9-foot landscaped area with 1 foot not being owned by you, I'd like to make a motion to approve the variation request.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, before we call the roll, we should go through these standards for variations. In recommending a variation, we need to find find the following findings. That because of a particular physical or other unusual condition of the specific property involved, a particular hardship or practical difficulty to the owner would result as distinguished from a mere inconvenience if the strict letter of the regulations were to be carried out. Do we feel that's been met?
Yes.
Yes.
B, the purpose of the variation is not based primarily upon a desire to increase financial gain.
Yes.
That's been met.
C, the alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person presently having an interest in the property. Appears this was a surveying error.
Correct.
D, the conditions upon which the petition for variation is based would not be applicable generally to other property within the same zoning classification.
I think that's met.
Yes, fairly unique property with the circulation patterns there. E, the granting of the variation will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property or improvements in the neighborhood in which the property is located.
Correct.
Yes.
F, the granting of the variation will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood.
Correct.
Correct. And G, the proposed variation will not impair an adequate supply of light or air to adjacent property or substantially increase the congestion of the public streets or
Yes.
increase the danger of fire or impair natural drainage or create drainage problems on adjacent properties or endanger the public safety or substantially diminished or impair property values within the neighborhood.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. We found that these standards have been met. Ashley, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Brum,
Aye.
Commissioner Matthews,
Aye.
Commissioner Lang,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Marhold,
Aye.
Chairperson Hennigan.
Aye.
Thank you.
The motion passes. And now we perhaps now can discuss the possibility of removing the fence. Personally, although I was present for the previous approvals, that was contingent upon there being a fence and no access to the public alley. So I really would want to see some more information on exactly how the traffic flow would function, the proximity to the adjacent residential areas. That would be of primary concern. Really get a better overall picture for how these sites are working together, I think.
Yeah, and I'd like to kind of jump on what Commissioner Marhold said earlier. I mean, this is, it's a sensitive topic to a degree. This, the people who live in the, the streets immediately behind it, just off Harlem Avenue, have expressed concerns over really, any businesses over there. So I just don't feel, at this point, I can't really make any type of reasonable discussion. I'd just be talking for the sake of talking, so I'm going to shut up now, because that's what I'm doing. But I think I'm happy to take it up at a later date when we know a little bit more.
Got it.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think it's a 16-foot wide public alley, and we're going to make it into a thoroughfare. I think that would require a lot more engineering and traffic investigation than we can do here. I would feel nervous about that.
I think that Supporting what John said, also the community, sorry, not the community, certain elements of the community were very not pleased with the idea of a cannabis facility there. So I think I'd rather not open this up right now. And to Doctor's benefit, the village is interested in working with you to make sure that any vehicles would be directed towards Harlem. So I think additional coordination with the village with a comprehensive plan would really be the way to go.
Got it.
I would agree with everything said here. I'm not, this sort of threw me for a loop with the whole fence removal, and I'm not prepared to talk about it.
I wasn't part of the original conversations. I wasn't on the board at that point. But looking back at some of it, it looked like that had been a strong area of conversation. So I'd like to see a little more as well.
All right.
Thank you so much for comments. This will just sort of direct further discussion with Dr. Normati and village staff. If there's any other, questions that may come up about this, we'll be certain to, this would be an item that would need to come back to you. So we'll talk further about it. The work at the parking lot isn't contingent upon the decision about fencing. So as of now, we have a site plan that's required. That would be a component of that plan to establish it as completed. But certainly they could move forward with their the lot pending village board approval of the recommendation tonight. So thank you very much, and we'll just come back to you if there's additional discussion or requirement for a site plan review.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other information for this evening? Okay. Our next regular meeting will be on September 27th. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thank you for everybody's time. Thank you.